room. If I see anybody, I'll let them in. Hi, everybody. Welcome once again to our Thursday book launch. I'm super excited tonight to welcome Deborah Jang and celebrate her book with her very first book. Her bio is in the chat section. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. We are open for submissions this month, so if you happen to have one rejected poem or more, you're welcome to send it. We only take poems that have been rejected elsewhere. I do want to say that Deborah is also a visual artist, and we've been oohing and awing over all her amazing creations that we can see. And tonight we will be celebrating her book, Float True. Could you hold up the cover? I just love that cover. I might be able to, oh, yes, fabulous. And that's an etching by a friend of hers, the cover is. Yes, Kimberly Becker introduced Deborah and I, and I'm so grateful that she did. She wanted to be here tonight, but she has just moved and gotten a job where she couldn't, her schedule just didn't permit her to be here tonight. I did want to point out that Deborah kindly put in there where we can order the book, and I love that bookshop.org. Maybe y'all already know of this, but I did not. That was a new place to me, and it supports brick and mortar bookstores, so it's nice alternative to Amazon. And if you do want a signed copy, if you're like me, I do like to have a signed copy. There's a, her email address is in the chat section. If you can't find it, let me know and I will repost it. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Deborah. I'm going to make you the spotlight, and glad y'all are all here tonight. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Deborah.
Okay, thank you, Malika, and hello from Denver. And it's nice to be in this space with all of you. So thanks for inviting me to share some of these poems. I also want to acknowledge again Kimberly L. Becker. She was my mentor through AWP in a program called Writer to Writer. And she really encouraged me in my writing and helped me along the way toward publication. She's a wonderful human and poet, and she introduced me to Malika, for which I'm grateful. Tonight I'm going to read from Float True. This was released March 2020 by Shanti Arts. And then I'm also going to read from a few from my upcoming chapbook. It's coming out next year from Finishing Line Press. So Float True deals a lot with some family history and other, like some of those existential ponderings that poets tend to latch on to. It takes a look at racial and social issues, and it celebrates nature. The first poem I'll read is called Skin. We come gift wrapped in it, the body's largest organ, swaddling the eye of we. Silky, flaky, flabby, firm, tattooed, goosebumped, stretchy, stretchy, pliable, porous, prickly too, peculiar, familiar flaws. We sink into the shape of it, scrub and shed it, moisturize, ticklish membrane, crinkly lines, pimpled dimples, hairy hide, touchable, woundable, healable, yes, bears us flinching through these times. A map of scars, silent, true, quiet witness to the bruise, repairs, reveals, sometimes weeps, swoons sunward to heaven's heat, however humble a holy home, holds lifetimes tender to the bone. And then this next one is called Hearsay. And it's a poem that I imagined about my grandmother, whom I never met. She immigrated to the US in the late 1930s with my grandfather, Gong Chao. And they experienced the typical not so friendly internment, detainment, interrogations on Angel Island near San Francisco. And now that I've become a grandmother myself, the last verse is something that I imagine she might whisper to me, or that I might impart to my grandchildren in turn. Hearsay. They say you sang like an angel on that island in the bay, where foghorns drowned out nighttime murmurs. Children's names recited, prayers to deaf-dumb gods, poems chiseled into barrack walls, lives left out in the rain. I heard them say, I have your giggle and your preference for peaches. I never touched your flesh or face, but this is what I gather. From Phi Wen to Gold Mountain, from girl to wife now claimed, tides ferried you from village hearth to far foggy days. The island where the angels weep nabbed you just offshore, offered a thin blanket, cold rice, interrogations, and a dreary 3-month chill. Finally, you and Gong Chao found a spot to land on. You served up rice to sailors and to homesick fellows hungry for your song. My mother June, your feisty first. Rosalind and David followed. Restaurant shiny, children strong. Then came the day to return. History called you home to China. June refused to go along and kept Rosalind too. The clouds and tides that brought your year ushered you back through. Within 2 years, word arrived, Gong Chao died in China, like he wanted. 1 month prior, on a whisper, you too had slipped away. Especially on misty days, I listen for your song. I know your fathoms of despair, your gentle grasp on pleasure. The peace of spirit that you seek encompasses all in-betweens, measures life in graces. Though ocean tides rip heart from heart, the interwash of time and tide returns us deep to deep. And then this next one is titled Resistance. I wrote it in 2017 in January on Inauguration Day. And within this poem, you'll also hear an ancestral voice coming through, offering comfort and wisdom. Resistance. Wishing poles fringe the pier. I must add, I wrote this from one of my favorite spots in the world, which in Oceanside, California. Wishing poles fringe the pier. Wistful wands wave and taper. Eyes attend the tender tip bent low, yet not breaking. The secret of bamboo, my father used to say, is how it bends to wind and storm, then rights itself to sky. Its inner fiber strong enough to stem the tides of time. How its arc remembers grace, resilient and wide. How it resists the trampling boot with elegance of spry. Fistfuls of fish are eyed by long-beaked fowl, eyed by strangers drawn to the strangeness, who rush to show and tell on their devices. I cross the planks towards sundown and silhouetted fishers, huddled with their dreams cast into the urn of churning blue. I lean in, my eyes breathe prayers, I straighten spine and listen, then bend back low to confide in secrets of bamboo. And then the last one from Float Through that I want to share is in the form of a video collage. And since since Float True came out in March 2020, just as COVID was settling in to the US, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I downloaded some multimedia apps and played around with, I call them video experiments, but I also reached out to collaborate with other poets and artists during this time of isolation. So this poem, it's titled Dwell, and I collaborated with a man named Ian Mayer. He's a friend, he's a poet from Jamaica, and you'll hear him do the actual recording of the poem, and you'll see a photo of him and that photo kind of inspired the poem itself. So here is Dwell, and thank you, Malika.
Oh, I love this idea. I'm so excited.
Mm-hmm.
Dwell, the broken branch is greening, the fisher folk returning, the Rasta man full knowing at the center of the sea. Launch your sweet boat wisely, let its hull embrace you, let its bow uphold you through life's diligent undersea. Waters yet are rising, horrors hug horizons. Stroke strong, deep, while keeping time to the heart's own beating. Heaven's underbelly floats in soft configurations, each clearing a bright act of love. Dwell full frontal there.
That was amazing.
Oh, thank you. And then I put in the comments link to my YouTube channel, because there's several of these on there, and you're welcome to go there on your own and take a look at these. And
I was going to say, if y'all don't see it, I can repost it. That way people
Yeah.
can go, because I would love to see all of them. I mean, it kind of made me want to wander through that.
I don't know if was the playback a little halted on some of your screens? Yeah.
Yeah, if
Just
it was,
a little choppy.
it's probably my internet connection. I apologize for that. So I'm going to put the YouTube channel for Deborah and I would suggest going back and hearing it on your own, because I could hear it perfectly, but I bet you my internet just didn't play it correctly for y'all. And Shamala said, this is wild. In this form, it has completely different energy to it than when I read it on the page. Both are lovely. And I think that's a fascinating, I do want to circle back to that when we have more discussion. But could you speak to that, Shamala? Because I'm curious of your experience.
Oh, just that, well, Deborah's poetry, when I first met it, was like, elder wisdom. And I'm an elder myself, and it was beautiful, and it's quiet, and it's thoughtful, and it's deep, not, fizzy or playful on the surface. And that was the meaning. Now I don't know, it's just a different vocabulary and a different time, and the emotions it contains are different. And I remarked on it because it's just fascinating that the same words, didn't quite understand where you were going when you started this experiment, Deborah, and I've seen some of them on YouTube before, but in this context, in this presentation, it somehow just really struck me. Like, wow, you can have the same words mean completely different things. Thank you for showing that.
Oh, yeah, I
By
think
example.
the music maybe adds, and the visual, that kind of
Mhm.
bring in different aspects.
Yeah, it just brings out different layers. I mean, it
Mhm.
was all there in your words, but you know,
Yeah, and
thank you.
I'm always issuing this invitation to other poets and artists, but I'm willing to collaborate with anybody on anything. But
I love that. It actually makes me think of how even, you know, reading, like having a second reader with your work makes a difference. You know, I remember doing poetry out loud, being one of the judges, and these kids would embody a poem in a way that I suddenly, kind of what you were saying, Shamala, where I suddenly had a whole nother aspect to the poem. I mean, poems that I knew, but hearing them embody it in such a way, and they're just reciting, but there was something transformative about hearing it in a different voice. Or, for example, Furious Flower Poetry did a celebration of Lucille Clifton, and it was 73 poems for in celebration of her life of 73 years. So 73 different poets read a poem of hers. And at first I thought, that's a lot of poems, that's a lot of poets, but I could have sat there for days. People like, you know, Rita Dove and Jericho Brown embodying Lucille Clifton poems. And there was something very interesting that happened. And I do think there's a level of embodiment or something that a person brings to a poem that inhabits the words in a different way. And I did want to also say, I really see where you and Kimberly have some similarities with just the beauty and depth of the poems, and such a rich spirit to it. To me, hearing you read, it really made me think of Kimberly. And I love the connection with ancestors, and there was something very interesting to me in some of the poems to do with touch. And sometimes it wasn't touch like in a physical sense, but it was touch in a connective sense. And I thought that was fascinating to have that continue through the poems that you read. And one, I think it was the first one, I thought, I wonder, you wrote that before the pandemic, but to me it seemed very, I don't know, like forecasting. And I'm trying to remember the line in particular that I thought, oh my heavens, and I may be able to find it. But I could talk, other people jump in. I know you have questions for Deborah. Yes,
I could go on and read the rest from the
please do. Please do.
And I'll just kind of run through them. The chapbook, the title is called Last Will and Best Guesses. And it has to do a lot with, concerns itself with matters of mortality and mystery. And some of the shakeups that converged in 2020 and are still unfolding and, you know, looming in our lives. So this poem, Malika, it sounds like the last project you were on. It's called Aging in Place, a Pep Talk. Another morning rolls over, outstretched and achy. Memory dawns on this strange familiar. The sock drawer is now the mask drawer. Death rattles and ramps up its toll. Tucked, safe in a haven, weathered and warm, day upon day drones survival. Blessings are counted with care. Windows look out on a world wary. Bright skies pour back in. Sun shafts reveal new old white hairs. A neck kind of warbled and thin. A brow grooved with worry, grief deep in sockets, brim over pockets of kindred despair. The heart beats itself down. The left hip complains. The will, a bit shaky but true. Chop wood, metaphoric. Get up, tragic comic. Carry on, as grown-ups do. Sign up, get a shot. One more for good measure. Grimace and gather, each wherewithal matters. Venture out on a limb with great care. Walk, trot, or run, limp, if you must, toward the warm patter of little feet roaming the hall. Tend the chapped parts of a world breaking, numbers still bleak, still trending. Let brittle bones clatter, let muscles flame. Offer what's left of flesh-encased days, breathing out mantras that keep old hearts repeating. This one is Ode to Yellow. You're from the yellow race, ain't ya? The whiskered man at the feed store seemed proud of his perception. A box to neatly put me in, a color-coded novelty, othered in our difference, set aside for reference, or generally ignored, or treated as an enemy, we, the yellow peril, or denounced repeatedly as global viral blame. Autumn bursts bright yellow, splendor screams, vibrance keens, an earnest pigmentation preceding winter's bleak. Quaking aspen, honey locust, river birch, beech, me, fellow yellow hangers on. Hello world, we're here. And then this next one, it has I have an epigraph in here. It's a headline from Associated Press. People stand by during attack of elderly Asian woman. It's called To My Bystanders. Did you catch a whiff of lilac on that warm summer eve while we were gathered at the bus stop, each wandering our mind? Out the corner of your eye, did you flinch? Did you see him rushing twilight, pushing rudely in? In a flash of recognition, did your stomach tell your throat what was going down? Did you see my toes curl fetal while I lay sideways on the concrete, stunned? Did you freeze in fear and horror? Did you look the other way? Did you reach down for your phone, or was it already in your hand? Were you scared to intervene? Did your silence cheer him on? Was it you who kneeled down and whispered something kind I didn't understand? Did you see my bruised face on TV? Did they say my name? Did they even try? I have two more. This one is called Of Lambs and Leopards. I found Jesus in the neighbor's backyard. He lived in my heart for a spell. I decided to get baptized and join the church flock. I walked forward to let them know. Lamb of God, I come, I come. I went, I whispered why. The church folk smiled in tune with the organ. The music swallowed me whole. As the moment of truth drew near, I invited my mom to attend. So she donned her leopard-spotted pillbox hat. Because you always wear a hat to church, she, the Episcopalian, claimed. It was her first visit to Calvary Baptist. Immersion and bare heads preferred. Up front in the spotlight, water to knees, I professed, took a breath, the pastor dunked me under. I sputtered up, knowing she was out there in her leopard-spotted pillbox hat. I beamed in my wet hair. I wondered if she sang along. I wondered if the spirit moved her. She kept her thoughts tucked under her hat as she drove the soggy lamb home. Some years later, we sat and drank our first glass of wine together. I forget the occasion. I think it was red paired with a cheese. She, the experienced drinker. Clink, clink went glass lips. I took a sip. The taste was sweet, slightly sour. My cheeks turned warm, then rosy. A cozy feeling spread. Flushed in the moment, her cigarette glowing, I noticed how much I loved her. Years after that, she confessed her relief at our wine precedent, for my piety had concerned her. I realized then we had been, to each a reciprocal blessing, she a witness to my dunking, my immersion into her drink, mutual holy communions, sanctified payback, amen. And then the last one, it's called A Perfect Death, which is fitting for a book titled Last Will and Best Guesses, I think. A Perfect Death. When I die, let it not be a scene of tragic nor dramatic portions. No headline-making horror show, not the granny pushed and battered, not one among a massive murder, nor victim X of a serial killer, nor alone on ventilator. May it be a peaceful leaving, nighttime's tiptoed undertaking, or in tender consciousness tucked between the waning breaths. May last goodbyes all be spoken, one by one, no regrets. Keep me warm, hold me tight. With dignity, may I go gentle. May hair fall neatly and just right. No lingering excruciation, no false hoping for survival, no denying, face full forward like the moon, steady, knowing. Escorted by the mystery beyond humanity's long plight, into realms uncomprehended, onward with the best of them. Letting go a lifetime's measure, at rest, at last, breaths, nothingness, nothing more, nothing less. Thank you.
Y'all can unmute. I know you want to clap like I do. That is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Oh,
Thank you
wow.
all. Thank you all for listening.
I think you're going to enjoy reading through the comments. There's a lot in there, and there's a lot of lines that people resonated with at the same time. Shamala and Laura, sanctified payback, amen. There's a lot in there, so you'll have a chance to read that. If people have questions for Deborah, feel free to unmute and just ask them. I think that's one of the blessings. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Deborah, I did visit your page to look at your visual art, which was really astounding. And since it's mixed media and assemblage, and seems to be taken from objects that you find discarded, I'm just kind of curious how your poetry intersects with your art. Because your poetry itself seems more less found than your pieces.
Yeah, someone once made a comment on my visual art that it was that was like a visual poem. So I appreciated that kind of connection, that there's a flow. So I hope there's a connection that way. I also, some of the thinking behind my my medium, my chosen medium, is that I really do like to gather up the cast-offs and the leftovers of
Yeah.
our society and make something beautiful out of them. And that's kind of my philosophy about humanity. And hopefully that meaning gets conveyed through the poetry. So maybe there's a connection there.
Yeah. Can I ask a quick follow-up? Were you influenced by like Louise Nevelson or any artist in particular when you started finding your art?
Yeah, a lot by Rauschenberg and Nevelson, of course.
Yeah. Frank Stella, maybe?
Maybe some. Also, I don't know if you know Ai Weiwei. He's a Chinese artist, but he does big installations and makes big social statements with his work. But he uses a lot of found materials. So
what's the spelling on that name?
Aiweiwei. He's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been.
Yeah, no, I've seen his work. I know what you mean. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
And sometimes in my poetry, I find that I like to throw in like cliches and common phrases and stuff. So that's maybe perhaps a form of found.
Oh, I like that too. That's awesome. I was just thinking though, the pieces that, are above you and the one that you showed us that you're sitting in, to me are very in keeping with your poetry, the value of touch and connection and how like you place things together in proximity. And I don't know, that kind of worked for me. Do other people have questions?
I
Karen,
do.
I was going to say, Karen, you got one. I can see
I've always got a question. Deborah, can you talk a little bit about your writing practice? Like, do you have a practice? Do you wait till a poem comes to you, or what are you doing? How are you doing it?
I kind of go in spurts. I have fertile periods and drier ones, but I think it's always working. It's always working in the background. But I do find it helpful. I'll sign up for a workshop once in a while just to get me going. But yeah, I'm not the kind to sit down every day on a given schedule, but I do find myself like at night before I go to sleep, kind of putting things together, or once in a while I'll just say, it's time to write a poem. And so I'll start with one phrase or one line, and I'll just kind of keep it in mind. And as I go through the day, things will latch onto that. Is that enough?
Oh, it's beautiful. And I definitely really enjoy how your poems have a sonic there, but the depth of meaning and the images that you choose for me are just incredibly powerful. And I did want, like Karen was saying, they say you sang like an angel, and she said such a moving way to lead us into this poem. And then I know a lot of us went to Returns Us Deep to Deep, The Secret of Bamboo. And it was just lovely to see like what was resonating. That poem that you read, it was exactly what we were talking about before we started recording. And the sock drawer is now a mass drawer, and how powerful that was. And then the poems that you read from the upcoming chapbook with Finishing Line Press, Othered in Our Difference. These were really powerful poems of witness, and I really enjoyed hearing that. And I wondered, with the Float True, when did you know you had a book? I mean, I know you worked with Kimberly with AWP, but when did you start to realize it's here, it's a book?
Well, Kimberly encouraged me to try to pull them all together.
Yeah.
And so I kind of realized then that there was maybe something there, but I put that out there for a long time, and it evolved over that time. I mean, just amazingly different than when I first started. I mean, I look back at my first draft of the collection and I get a little embarrassed.
I think that's what gives us hope. And I think it's a beautiful process of being in conversation with our work, you know, and as we start to see it moving in pieces as a larger experience, as a larger, you know, picture, that things do kind of evolve and take on their own life and start to talk amongst themselves, as it were.
Right. And kind of talk back to the poet in a way.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Oh, I love that. I did want to, yeah, hello world, we're here, and did your stomach tell your throat? I don't know why that one just really stuck with me. And then Karen really resonated. Did you see him rushing twilight? Did they say my name? Did they even try? Yeah. Incredibly powerful.
Yeah. I
love the range of work that we got to experience today.
I appreciate everybody's comments and showing up and listening. I really, and the opportunity, Malika, to
Oh,
share.
my pleasure. I'm so grateful to Kimberly for connecting us. I have enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yeah.
Did anybody have a question? I didn't see any in the comments, so I did check through there. And Kathy regrettably said her audio wouldn't start working on her device. So she said, I'm so sorry. But she couldn't hear. She tried coming back in and that didn't reconnect it. So we lost her along the way.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about her process or about the poems read? And I apologize again about the playback. So please go to the YouTube channel and hear it for yourself, because I think you'll enjoy it as much as I did.
Can you talk a little bit about your YouTube channel and the videos that you put up in the process of assembling that type of filming?
Like I say, it's pretty much an experiment. I'm not a big promoter, so I have 4 followers. And,
double that. We can double that. Just
You're
like
gonna
that,
double
guys.
it tonight.
Exactly.
I have this, you know, that push-pull where you want to share, but you don't want to share. You know, it's that kind of thing. But I just needed a place to put all these, and I needed to make them because that's where my energies went. So I don't really have a big scheme plan. I'm not going to make $1 million. It's just some place to put things and let people know where they are. And there's a range of quality to them, because some of them I discovered how to format things better, and so but it's there's really not a lot to say, except it's just my fumblings, but it really served a purpose during the quarantine, especially. It gave me I really kind of dug in and learned a lot.
So you don't have any intention of showing this in a gallery or anything like that?
I don't.
You might want to consider that, because it would be, you know, kind of a supplement to your other work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for that thought. And
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
it's been a challenge for me to combine my visual art with my poetry as far as the 2 practices. With this, I was telling some of the people about this residency I just came off of, and I made all these series of chairs, sculptural chairs. But I also did an activity during that residency where I invited several local poets to come and sit in the chairs and read their work. So that happened last week. And it was pretty fun. It was pretty.
I hope you're videotaping that experience too, Deborah, because I just love that idea. And I love your openness to collaboration and the idea of the synergy that we get from being in each other's company.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
It's very cool. And can you show the chair, because since this will be a videotape, I'm sorry, I gotta see it one more time.
Well,
So just wait, you guys that haven't seen it.
So good.
it's my armchair. It's a rocker, and it has these mannequin arms that can come and squeeze you. And
And
so
it rocks.
I call it Rock of Ages.
God, I love it.
And I didn't read that night at my event, but if I had read, I would have sat in this chair and I would have read the one about the perfect death.
Oh,
Keep me
wow.
warm, hold me tight, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of that when you read that line. I thought immediately of the chair, and I was thinking, you know, there is something beautiful threading through all your work that, you know, that we experienced tonight that I just thought was very powerful.
Oh,
So
great.
thank you. That was
Thank you.
awesome.
Now I get to hear from you guys, right?
Yes, yes, we are heading towards open mic. Oh, so Laura just wrote, okay, you now have 5 subscribers to your YouTube channel. Thank you, Laura. Yep, I'll head there afterwards. If you'd like to read for open mic, please feel free just to jump in, because normally I'm a little bit more organized and I remind people to send me something in the chat section and I totally forgot. So we can just go round robin. Karen, you want to start us?
Sure. I've been doing my usual obsessing about birds. Okay. So this is kind of fresh ink. Duty. As a softening rhythm of heart beckons conference, as a circling of shadows, charcoal sky, as a secret of settling blood-seep whispers, winged darkness falls on its venue. As a silent spirit surrenders to stillness, a wake of scavengers descends to soil, perhaps to pray, perhaps to gather up the silence of a rising up soul. The duty of vultures is vulturing, not metaphor for birds of prey.
Awesome.
Go vultures.
Yeah, but what's so fascinating about that, Karen, is I kept getting the sensation of circling. And so that when it came to
good.
I was like, that works. I don't know if anybody else had a physical sensation, but I had a very physical sensation with that. So awesome. And I can't tell you exactly why.
So happy.
It was something in the assonance of the S, you know, in that sound, or that did it. I'm not really sure. Awesome.
Well, that makes me very happy, Malika.
Good. You know, it's interesting, the physical sensations that poems give, right? And there were a lot that I had with Deborah's work that were moving like here, and then drawing up. I don't oftentimes talk about physical sensations, but I'm sure other people have that experience. When someone reads, you can feel something. And then there were other times that I felt like arms and energy going out the arms, outward, inward.
You know, I just want to say too, Deborah, I so felt a flow, especially in your poems that you were reading from your book. It just I felt like I was in a river flow of telling of a history. And it was just so intimate. It just felt like an intimate sharing, and it was very physical. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I love that description. Yeah. Laura, did you want to read something today?
Totally not prepared to do that. I was just looking for something and I can't find it.
We can come back.
We'll come back. I'll try to.
I was going to say, please feel like we can come back. Shamala? Oh, you're muted. Let's unmute. You're fine. Everybody does that. I do it all the time.
A year and a half into the pandemic, you'd think we would know by now, but I'm always muted and unmuted at the wrong times. Yeah, this is a little thing I wrote after the Oak Creek shooting. There was a memorial gathering in New York, and I wrote it for my niece, and sorry about the preamble, but I wanted to say I wrote it for my niece. I sent it to her, and she sent me back like 4 or 5 lines that were an answer or a rebuttal or something. So I'm going to read both of those bits. So this is after Oak Creek. There was a mass murder of people who look like us. You'll be upset. Let me cook something for you. Sounds crazy, no? But what's an auntie to do? Food is the code of love in our society. The more the ghee, the more insistent the love. Pushing. Here, eat one more jalebi. It's not oozing oil. What a thing to say. You're so thin. Simply eat. Dal and roti and saag, or sambar and rice and pickle and my great auntie's curry. Just for you. It will make you nice and strong. Bulletproof, in fact, my child. Surrounded on the outside by the prayers of 100 aunties, only good things can come to you. Coated so thoroughly on the inside with ghee and sugar and food from my hands, that you will know you are loved invincibly, unswervingly, and let's be honest, sometimes even annoyingly, but always loved. Even if, God forbid, a madman's bullet should hit you. I am coming to the vigil tonight for the shooting victims. Are you coming? Can I cook and bring you food? And Tara wrote back a little while later, I feel like the other side of your poem would be something like this. For God's sake, I know I told you to be braver and better, but now is not the time to start listening to me. Keep your pepper spray close and our culture closer. Stay indoors and practice being white in the mirror. Better for you to live on your knees than be dead on the floor.
Holy smokes.
So,
Kamala, that is amazing. And I really deeply value the conversation that you had with her too, and that you included that.
She is very precious. She runs the Subcontinental Drift open mic community in New York City.
Oh, that's
and is, yeah,
so
we bring each other up.
Writing is in the family, but some of those lines are simply haunting and beautiful. Karen, I know you're crying, and I was trying not to. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And you muted yourself on purpose, Karen. See, I don't get that benefit when I start to.
I had to, I'm glad I was muted because I was making so much noise during that reading. I was just eyeing and making breath sounds and, oh yeah, and I was crying. That was incredible. Thank you for writing that and sharing it.
This is all we can give to each other about certain things. And it's precious. The sounds are precious. So thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, did you want to read? Nope. I'm going to ask you to unmute so maybe we can hear our seagull back there.
I'm unmuting. Maybe you can hear, I don't know, it's getting a little noisy in this restaurant here in this coffee shop.
Gotcha.
But I'm really, really enjoyed listening to everything. And it's just what I needed this afternoon. So after spending a week with a 4 and a 6-year-old grandkid.
Yeah, we're glad you could slip away for an hour.
I'm glad I could too, yeah. And I think I am gonna go, but it's been really wonderful. Thank you so much. I've loved all of it. Thank you for allowing me to listen.
Just glad to hear. Be well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Barbara.
You too, everyone. Bye.
Bye. John, did you want to read? Yep, perfect. Ask you to unmute. Hang on. There we go. There we go. We're good.
Okay. We're good?
Yes.
All right. When Day and Night is a short story, they say, there is no time. This place is too small. Not everything is quiet enough. Try to take a breath. In that space, make a poem.
I like it. Oh, that's lovely. In that space, make a poem. I don't know why. That suddenly reminded me of just the importance of presence and being mindful in the moment. That was lovely to have that memory. Thank you, John. Laura, you found it?
I found it.
Yes.
I actually think I might have read this at one of your other open mics. But,
well, we are happy to hear it.
And I'm reading this, you'll understand why. It's called How to Die with Dignity. Surround yourself with family. preferably at home. Speak fondly of the son you lost too young, the baseball player who drank too much but lived a big life, and the wife gone before you. Tell your loved ones that this is a good death. Thank the hospice workers for tenderly wiping your ass. Last of all, tell your only daughter, Marcia, to please, please, please stop crying.
I don't think you read that before.
I
Whoa.
thought I recorded it,
Oh.
and it was on one of your recordings with it.
No, Laura, you read it at the Poetry Festival, and you made and right before I read it, she made me cry before I had to read. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know, because I would have remembered that. That is really
Oh.
powerful, Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now I do have it on tape, so I
Yes, you do.
thank you. Wow.
Well, this was
Y'all
fun.
y'all brought the magic today. I think Deborah started it.
Malika, do you have something that you can share with us?
I'm trying to think of hang on just a second. Let me see if I can. I didn't prepare it. You know, I never remember to do that when I'm focused on something.
No, you just have to just pull it out of your hat.
You're funny. I might if I can find this one poem that just got into that anthology about 9/11 coming up on the 20th anniversary
Ooh.
of it. And I'm super happy about it because it's an amazing anthology that has, you know, like Shelby Stevenson in it and Jackie Shelton Green. And of course I'm finding, oh, how come, what, does anybody else have this where you have 20 different versions of the same poem on your computer so that when you go to look for it, it's like I'm in my mind, I'm going, it's the one with couplets. And of course I'm seeing all these other like solid, like really prosy looking things. So I know it's not the right one. And I think, how can you have the same poem so many times, you know? I'm hoping I'm not alone in that. And I don't want to hold people up with that. I'll see if it shows up, and it may not. Okay, it does. I found it.
Yay!
I can't believe I found it. So, all right, guys, thank you all so much for encouraging me, and I will read this happily. And Because a Doorway, for Tony, 82nd Airborne, Iraqi Freedom, 2003. Because a doorway can be an ambush. When you're in the shop, the gritting sound of the metal grinder flinting fire into the air, or the arc of light flashing blue, hot above the well pool to form a joint. I stand outside the open doorway, calling your name, waiting for you to turn and lift the dark shield of your welding helmet to see me, known and unarmed. I wait to see your shoulders soften before I cross the threshold. It's the first time I've read that poem.
Wow. Wow.
Thank y'all very much.
Mm.
Yeah.
Who's publishing the anthology?
Press 53. And it's David Pretorti and Joseph Bethanti, a former North Carolina poet laureate. And Joseph has done a lot of work with veterans. And so I knew that they were open to, you know, talking about, you know, the cost of war, the fact that so many of our soldiers, combat veterans, struggle with PTSD. And there's a lot of things that are triggers that, you know, if you're like me and you've never been to war, I don't ever think about. And the fact that, you know, if Tony is at my house, everything is moved away from the doorway. And if he walks in and there's something to the left or to the right, it's a moment. And, you know, there's so many things that I don't think about that affect very differently. And so now for, you know, 4th of July or New Year's Eve, it's not just the horses that I think, I hope this isn't a rough night. It's also, you know, if Tony's here, I hope this isn't a rough night. Meaning that the repetitive sounds of percussions is really hard.
Yeah, I had my next door neighbor back in Ohio was a Vietnam vet, and he suffered every 4th of July. And back then, people really didn't understand what was going on, you know.
No.
But
no.
you know, I have to say, based upon the amount of violence that were displayed in the violence against women displayed and ethnic minorities displayed in the poems tonight, I'm pretty sure most women in America suffer from PTSD in some form.
Well, and
am I wrong about that? I mean, that seems to be.
As a former rape crisis counselor, I am always endlessly surprised when somebody doesn't have a history that a woman doesn't have a history that doesn't involve sexual violence.
Yeah.
And I think the cumulative generational wounding that we have with people of color and with our Native Americans, you think about not only personal experiences, but you know, this whole, I mean, what Deborah was talking about with her grandmother that sang like on Angel Island. And these are important stories, and it's important to voice. And I think that PTSD, we're only really starting to look at how, I mean, look, Giuliani, I mean, just refusing to step down. And when he does step down, the thing he says is something that all women have heard. I'm sorry you felt that way. Essentially, I'm sorry you felt that way. And I'll tell you, our daughters,
yes,
our daughters are not going to accept that. My daughters just, you know, are so different than how I was raised, and the way they call people out. If you say something racist around my kids or something sexist around my kids, you're going to hear it. They will call you out. And I'm grateful that we, you know, we have this youth that I look to and I think, good, do a better job than we did, please.
Yep.
You know, and we're here to support you in doing that. And I think that's kind of what you were saying, Shamala, with your, you know, your niece. I sense that same kind of powerful voice, and I think, good. You know?
They don't tiptoe around things the way we did because they've seen that our tiptoeing didn't do any good.
No, my daughter says you're still, my daughter will say you're still too nice, you know, and I was raised with that, you know, I was raised with nice girls don't do that, or, you know, and yes, I broke silences, but not in the same way.
Yeah.
Not like this. So Deborah, it made me think about your grandchildren. I wonder what they voice. I wonder what their truths they're speaking.
It'd be so interesting.
Yeah. But so thank y'all very much. It's a pleasure to be in your company today.
Could I ask something? Is this a regular community that Deborah is featuring in tonight, or is this a special event? Or
yeah, it's a regular.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning.
Oh, no worries, no worries. We have been a regular meeting weekly book launch for people that had books out during the pandemic, and I've slowly been winding down because my work has gotten a little bit more. But we've been meeting weekly. And usually it's via Facebook that I'll advertise. And I imagine that I'll continue doing this probably once a month or something like that. So I'm not doing it every week as time progresses, because frankly, it's become such an important touchstone for, and I know we're a small community, but I really love the people that show up. And I have enjoyed being able to hear so many powerful voices and so many powerful poets and meet people who I deeply value what they're sharing. So
and you can go back and look at the videos, right? You have your
the YouTube channel is and please go back and see Kimberly Becker, who introduced Deborah and I, and some of the other poets that have been featured. Speaking of sexual assault, you know, the anthology Grabbed, powerful. That was probably one of the most powerful and you know, just experiences of a variety of voices that were featured in that anthology. Richard Blanco was one of the editors, and why am I blanking on this fabulous poet? And I'm just blanking. But we also featured her with her newest book. Oh, I hate that I'm blanking.
Oh, I'm blanking too. She was so good.
Terrible. Carrie Dad Morrow. I can actually remember. Thank heavens. I was like, my brain can't be that addled. I am menopausal. This has been Seriously.
Can you put the YouTube address in the chat?
I can. Hang on. Oh, that's
I was just
awesome.
looking for it.
The good
Yeah, so
news is the
it's if you miss a session, it's well worth going and seeing the YouTube.
Yeah,
Because
they're
these
really
have been just amazing readings all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, we have just been, introduced to poets and experienced poets that I just thought, how did I not have this person in my bookshelf? How did I not know? And it's just been incredibly amazing to be able to do this. And then to have people say, you would really like this poet. And then for us to have, Deborah come on or people come on that I'm like, yes, this is somebody that I need to have their words. All right, guys, let's go subscribe to Deborah and double her numbers. Be well, everybody. Fabulous to be in your company. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.